everybody, thank you for joining this very special video on how to print labels. The holidays are coming up soon, and we thought it would be a great idea to have all of us here, the webinar host of Top Producer Customer Care. I'm Dan Salcedo. Joining me is Spencer Powell.
Hello, everyone. Good to be here.
Doyle.
Hello, everyone.
And we're going to walk you through every possible way you can print labels in your tried and true tested classic version Top Producer 8i. It's going to be a little bit extensive. So this is why we recorded it. So you can pause this, you can rewind it, you can fast forward it, especially on the type of computer or browser that you're using. So this is your friendly reminder that you can do that throughout this video. But we're just going to get right into it. We're going to start with the most popular browser that everybody uses, and that is Google Chrome using Windows. So I'm going to go ahead and ask Spencer, if you don't mind, to do the honors and walking us through the first way how to print labels.
All right, everyone. So first way we're going to cover printing labels is actually through the contacts area. So if you just hover your mouse, don't necessarily click on it, but just hover your mouse over it and then go down to search for contacts at the bottom of the list there. You're likely familiar with this function already. It's just the standard contact search in Top Producer 8i. And then from here, you'd want to fill in any criteria for the contacts that you'd like to make labels for. So in most cases, this is going to be one or more contact types. So if you want to bring up a list of your contact types, you just click on select from list, select one or more types that you want to send to, and then click on done. Of course, if there's any other criteria that you needed to kind of fill in to narrow that down further or something, you definitely could do that. We're just going to keep it simple and just aim for one contact type here. One quick thing to note is that unfortunately with Google Chrome, there's an issue where it kind of fills in the contact method field sometimes. It's just an issue with the way Chrome's autofill feature functions. Not a whole lot we can do about that here. So just a heads up that, yeah, your username will fill in there automatically if you have autofill enabled for Top Producer 8i. So just make sure that is cleared out first if that happens to you before clicking on search in the bottom left. All right, so we have all the contacts. Just best to kind of reference the bottom right corner just to make sure that count does look correct to you. And then if you want to select all the contacts in the top left corner before clicking on schedule activity. So I know that sounds a little bit strange, but just stick with me for a second here because it's going to make sense in just a moment. So if we click on schedule activity, it's going to allow us to either schedule this for a later time or just do the label mail out right now. We don't have to schedule it for later time. Very, very important, guys. At the top here, we have to switch the type to label. If you are planning to do this for a later time, you can fill in a description, which is just going to name it, for example, like Christmas labels or Halloween labels or Thanksgiving labels or whatever it is you're doing. If it is for a later time, you can set the date. Otherwise, feel free just to leave it as today if you just plan to just mail out right on the fly. If we scroll down, we can see all the contacts or some of the contacts as a preview there. And if we go down further under label template, just have to make sure that the category and template is selected. Most people are just going to choose standard labels unless you have your own personalized ones. But standard labels usually just does the trick. And the most common one is the Avery 5160. That's just the biggest brand out there and the most common size from that brand. Dan, I believe that is, as you said earlier, 5 across, 10 down. And
3 across, 10 down.
Oh, sorry, 3 across, 10 down. Yeah. And then at the bottom here, just a quick thing to point out, if you do hit add activity, that's going to, schedule that and you can come back to it later. You don't necessarily have to do that if you don't want to. It's great to keep a log that way. And then you can kind of, like I said, fulfill that later or use that as a way to repeat this in the future. So it can be a good idea sometimes. However, if you just want to print as soon as possible, you can go ahead and actually just click on print preview instead. And so what that's going to do is just generate that preview. It's going to ask you to choose a starting position for your labels. So if you're starting with a fresh label sheet, you can just leave this as is in the top left corner there. If you're using a label sheet that's partially used though, you can click on where you want it to start. So let's say your label, went to here last time. You would then want to start it over here, because then it would carry on, this way. And then copies per contact, the default is 1. In most cases, that's what you want to do. But if you do want to maybe, print out 2, 3, 4 for different events throughout the year or something like that, you definitely could. And, save yourself some time instead of redoing this later. We're just going to go with 1 for now and print preview. And we'll give that a few seconds to generate the labels. And just a reminder, guys, we are in Google Chrome for this section. So what you're seeing here pertains to Google Chrome. So as you can see, all the labels are laid out nicely there. We just need to go into the top right corner and click on the printer icon.
Yeah, and by the way, these are all make-believe contacts, right? So
yeah,
please try not to steal Spencer's leads.
Yeah, these are all randomly generated people. No, we're not revealing anyone's information here. It's just all fake and randomly generated. So we're going to go ahead and click on the printer icon. There we go. And so right off the bat here, guys, we just actually need to click on more settings just to make sure that it is defaulting to the scale of default here. So that's really all there is to it for Chrome. Just got to make sure it says default. If the scale says anything other than default, please make sure you change it to default first before clicking on print at the bottom.
And that's it. So this example here is just showing me a save dialog box because I don't have an actual printer connected to this machine. But that is how you print from Chrome. And if you just follow those really simple steps that Spencer laid out, it's gonna come out perfectly right from the start. Especially those printer settings, if you don't do it at default scaling, it might misalign. And is there any pro tip that you can give regarding that, Glenn, when we're trying to make sure that it's not printing misaligned?
Absolutely. One thing that I have always suggested is to print just the first page, but on a regular standard piece of paper. Once you print that out, you want to put it on top of your label sheet, hold that up to a light source, and you'll be able to see that the label actually goes around the outside. Thanks, Dan. I appreciate the visual. But you'll actually be able to see that if everything is set up and the labels are in the right spot. This saves you wasting a label sheet. And they ain't cheap, so let's try to do it easier.
Right.
You can always flip over the piece of paper to print on the other side, or if you have children, give it to them to color on, like Dan does with this.
Yeah, especially around this time, right? Everyone's trying to print out labels, so there's a lot of out of stock label papers out right now.
Exactly.
So definitely don't want to waste that, and good for the environment, of course.
For
so
sure,
thank you for that pro tip there, Glenn, and thank you, Spencer, for showing us how to print labels through the contact search using Google Chrome. Now, what if someone is using Microsoft Edge? I hear that's getting more popular nowadays.
Yeah, I mean, I've been using Edge for at least a year now or so. So one thing to note, guys, right off the bat is that Edge, very, very similar to Chrome. It's actually built on the same technology as Chrome. So all the steps right up to the very last printing step is exactly the same. So, what we just covered in the last 3 minutes or so, exactly identical up until when you actually hit that print button. So it's just going to be the final print settings that just differ just a little bit. So we're just going to let Dan kind of catch up here, just sort of repeat that process, search for the contacts, select them all, schedule activity, switch the type to label. If we want to do it at a later time, fill in a description is always good to do, set the date for later, that kind of thing.
Okay.
Happy turkey.
Yeah, let's do a Thanksgiving one.
Set the category and template for the label. Once again, Avery 5160 is the most common one. And then we can go ahead and print preview at the bottom if we just want to print it right away.
Wow, that was pretty
generate? Yeah. And once again, guys, choose the starting position on the label sheet, usually just the default top left if it's a brand new sheet. Otherwise, you can change that. Usually one per contact. Depends what you're trying to do, though. You can save yourself some time, once again, printing more than once for different events in the year, and then print the print preview. Just let that generate. And there we go. There's these same labels once again. Very similar to Chrome. Like I said, we're just going to go ahead and click on the print button in the top right corner. Just going to look slightly different. And now, the print options are on the left instead of the right, but still very similar. We click on more settings right off the bat. And then here, guys, instead of default, it's actually just going to be called actual size. And so you just want to always be looking for like default or actual or 100% or something like that. So in this case, it's just an actual size. And then we just click on print.
Perfect. And as again, earlier I said, no printer on this machine right now. So that's why it's trying to save it. But as soon as you hit print, it's going to start going through your printer. And that's it. You can start putting it on those envelopes. And that is how you do it for Chrome. And that's how you do it for Edge. Now, what about for our wonderful Mac users, our wonderful Apple users, Glenn? How can they print labels properly and not gigantic one contact label only?
Well, because that's a very good question that I've asked or been asked, and I even asked, I created this video that we're going to run through. So Dan's going to bring it up, and you'll notice I'm clicking on marketing. Okay, hovering on marketing there. And then when it opens up, you're going to see perform mailout. Now, once you get that, click on perform mailout. And now you want to do a mailout type of a label. Now, this is a little bit different from Spencer's way of doing it. However, 8i is a versatile program. You can do so many different things in different ways. So please follow along, do a label, and then standard labels. We give that a click, and then we do 5160 because, as Spencer said, the most popular brand of labels out there and the most used, with the 3 across and 5 down. So let's go into that, and then you click on next. So now this is where you're going to actually want to add your contacts. So you want to click on search and attach multiple contacts there. Yep, right where he's circling. Give that a click. You'll see it come up. And now you want to choose your contact type. Now, one question I'm asked frequently that I should bring up right now, you can only add one contact type at a time. So you click on the drop down there and it'll give you your contact types. So let's just say I want to send out calendars to my buyers. So we would go to buyer, click on that, and then hit the search button. Once you do the search, it's going to bring up everybody who's a buyer contact. So go ahead and click all. And then after you've clicked all on them, you're going to see down in the corner, it says 74 contacts, which is correct. And then I want to attach them to those selected contacts to the label.
And guys, just really quick, if I may.
Yes.
Just a reminder, everyone, if you want to select one or more than one contact type, just use the method we showed earlier in the video. You can use the contact search and, select more than one that way.
Exactly.
Yeah, the way that Spencer showed you the contact search, that's if you want to go crazy with your searches, right? Like this group, but not this group, right? That's why we showed you that one first, the most flexible way to do it. But if you're just like, I want to send it to all my contacts, or I just want to send it to this one group, Glenn is showing you guys the fastest way to do it.
Yeah, and keep in mind, this can be used in any browser. It's not just Safari specific. It is usable in Edge, Chrome, Firefox, and Safari. So once you've done that and you've selected them all, you go ahead, you see that it's got the 74, and then you create the label. So you just click on create label there.
Yeah, and this is probably where a lot of folks get stuck. And this is probably when we start getting frustrated customers going into customer care saying, I'm trying to print all my labels, but it's only showing me one, right? Or it's not doing anything, right? So this is the important part here that I want everybody watching this video to pay attention to.
Dan is correct, because the way this is done is go ahead and click play on that, Dan, so we get to see the next screen. It's going to go through creating the label, and then bang, it's got this one great big label. There is an actual reason for this. This is to show you how the label is going to look by just taking the first person in your list and putting it on there so you just see one label. You notice all that gray space around it. That's taking the actual size, not actual size because it's expanded, but that takes the dimensions that the label would be and shows you where everything is. You will notice though, if you click on the scroll bar on the side, and especially on, I'm using a 13-inch MacBook, so I don't have, or MacBook Air, sorry, since I don't have that much real estate on my window, I have to scroll down a bit. So once it goes, go ahead and hit start there. You're going to see that I actually scroll down a bit on the side. Look for the print now, and as we showed you before how to do one for the future, you could do print later. Once you click on that, this is where you get your starting position. This is where Spencer showed you before. So instead of just going directly to seeing all of them in the starting position, this one lets you see what the label is going to look like for one person. So go ahead and click on where you want it to start. I did the start at the very beginning. And there, now you see everybody. It's that one little thing there that seems to sometimes make, I've unfortunately had people print out on one label sheet, one person all across the whole sheet. So that's one of the reasons why we wanted to make sure that that scene was seen. So you can see that it's just, this is your preview. Go ahead and click print now to see everything.
Yeah, by the way, this is like when we get these type of calls and we know the solution. This is where we feel all like, you know, heroic, right? Oh, we saved we saved your printer mail out, right?
Yes, this is where we get to say, hey, today I get to be a genius. So you'll see here, I've got all the labels showing, and I just scrolled through because I like to verify that there's there and make sure nothing looks wrong, which I did notice at 1.1 did have a problem. But then you scroll down to the very bottom and you'll see this area where you can zoom in, zoom out. You'll notice two other options, one that actually goes to preview or one that downloads. You want to click on download and you will see it bounce up in the corner right here, right by the trash can, where it's downloaded the file for you. So once you get it there, go ahead and click on your downloads and choose the one. File 2 is the one that I had there because I had already done another export for testing. Or sorry, a label for testing, and then file 2 is the one to do. Now, once you bring it up, you're going to have everything there, and then you want to go up to the top left and click on File. Yep. There you go. Click on File and then Print. Now, the one thing that is very useful with the Apple Safari interface is once you click Print, it's going to bring up the print interface for us. This one has so little to change around on it that it makes making a mistake very difficult. The only thing to keep in mind, you want to make sure it doesn't say two-sided. If you have a printer that can do two-sided, mine was actually auto set to print on both sides of the paper. So I had to turn that off. And then you just do all pages in range, or even just select one page. To do the first page, to hold it up to the light to verify before you print the whole group. And then you just go ahead and hit print. Once you click on the print button there, it's going to start sending it over to the print helper, preparing it there, and then it goes directly to the printer. You get to see all of that. It goes pretty quick, gets it over there really nicely, and then at this point, I'm getting up from my desk to go and grab my printed labels because they were all done and ready to go.
Nice. Thank you so much for that. Hopefully that was very useful for you folks there that use a Mac computer or using Safari. That is how you print from the Safari on Mac. Now, what if you want to print return labels, right? You're not necessarily printing it for any contacts. You need to print out some return labels. Well, I'm going to show you guys quickly how to do that. I'm using Firefox this time, just so you guys can see a little bit of a different method. And instead of going contact search or marketing perform mail out, like these wonderful gentlemen have shown us already, I'm going to show you another way to do it, just because, you know, as some of you guys know, 8i, you can do pretty much the same thing in different ways because people like to do different way. People like to do things in different ways, or they learn in different ways, right? So Another method of printing labels, especially if you're just printing return labels for yourself, is under calendar. We're going to go to add activity. But before we do that, make sure you are in your contact database so that you can create those return labels. I've already pre-made myself in there. And let me go ahead and show you what my contact record looks like. Just go into your contact record, make sure your address on there is the one that you want to show up on the return label. That way you don't have to go back and forth and fix it. So once you verified that's the primary mailing address, then you can start doing the return label process. So I'm just going to go back to my home page just to keep it simple again. We're going to start from calendar, click on add activity, and we're going to change the type from to do to label. And we're just put a description. So return labels for 2022 holiday mailouts, right? Something like that. And I'm gonna go ahead and keep the same standard label categories, the same AV 5160. And then we're gonna go straight into print preview. Notice how quick that was. All I had to do is make sure that I was in there, and I'm already pretty much at the very end here. So if I want to print out a full page of AV 5160 return labels, all I have to do is go to where it says copies per contact and set it to 30. Right? With AV 5160, it's 3 across, 10 down. So that's 3 times 10, and that equals to 30. So that's why we're selecting 30 copies here, because we only have ourselves in here as a contact. Now, I promised myself I wasn't going to make this mistake during this recording, but before we actually print this out, we're going to go ahead and make sure that when you're selecting that label, we're going to put our name in there for that label activity. So we're just going to drag it over there, and that's pretty much it. You can even click on your name you can see the address that it's going to show. So just to quickly recap before I go to the next screen, we went through calendar, we went to add activity, we selected the type of label. We made sure that our name is in there for contacts so that our address is going to show up on that return label. Selected the correct template, and then we're just going to click on print preview. So we're going to have a full sheet of AV 5160, which is 30 labels in total for that one page. And we're just going to click on print preview. And as the gentlemen have shown you guys, there is the printer settings that you have to be aware of. So in Firefox specifically, once you click on the printer button, the printer settings will be on the right-hand side. Make sure the scale is set to 100%. So if it's set to fit to page width, change that to scale and set it to 100. Once you're done that, select print. That's pretty much it. It'll print it out for you. You can even save it if you want, and then you can come back to it later. What I've done earlier is I've actually marked it done. So let's say this is like a week later and you're like, oh, I need to print out more labels. I didn't realize I have to send out another mail out, right? I can actually go back into my contact record, go to my completed labels that I've done in the past, and I can actually print it out straight from there. Skip all of those steps that I did and go straight to the end here, set to 30. And there we go. I've got all my return labels ready to go. And that only took what, another 10 seconds, maybe coming back to it if you need to do a reprint of your return labels. So it's that easy and that quick. And that is basically everything you need to know about printing labels through your Top Producer 8i. Hopefully this video has been useful for you guys. I'm your host, Dan Salcedo, and joining me today is Spencer Powell, Glenn Doyle. These guys are the all-star team for our webinar hosting. If you guys enjoyed this webinar, please join us for another webinar. Just go to topproducer.com/campus, and there's a button on the top right corner that says webinar schedule, and we'll be happy to go through some more tips and tricks with you guys. But otherwise, thank you so much for watching this video. Hope you guys have a great holiday, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you very much, everyone. Happy holidays to you.
Take care, everyone, and happy label season.